the eternal now. And Jesus Christ says that don't you tell that you have 4 more months to do the harvest, but lift up your eyes and see for yourself that the harvest is ready. He is teaching in parables. He is comparing harvest with receiving God. When will I find God? Everybody asks this question. Even the day one of your spiritual practice, you will have this question. And more often than not, people who crave for God ask Him, and they in fact are really upset that God is not revealing Himself. But God silently says to that devotee, you have any idea how many incarnations have I waited for you to turn your gaze towards me? So it's a matter of time. But again, time and space are a part of Maya. We live in a world, or we are bound by Maya. We are limited by time and space. And in this physical plane, where there is such a limitation, everything takes time. And we have been taught from our childhood that you need to strive to achieve something. We need to work hard to achieve something. Rome was not built in one day. It took years to build Rome. So our mind is preconditioned, and we apply the same rule which we have in the physical plane to God also. We think that we have to strive and wait for years to achieve Him. But what we forget is God is beyond time and space. God is not limited by time and space. He is eternity and He is infinity. So the limits do not apply to Him. To realize God, to be one with Him, we need not wait for 4 months, as Jesus said, or any years or days. All we have to do is to realize that He is already with us. The greatest inspiring statement in the reading which I just read is, God is as much with us now as He will ever be. What we think is, I will become enlightened or liberated after years of sadhana and I will be one with God. But the truth is, He is already one with us. And why are we not able to realize that? Well, there is another question we can ask. And the question is, what is God? Where will we find Him within us? In this body, where is He? Or in our consciousness, where is He? He is everywhere and He is nowhere. All the saints give the teachings that God is nearest of near and dearest of dear. Yet we are not able to receive Him perfectly into our consciousness. All the Vedas also say the same thing. In fact, all the 4 Vedas have 4 Mahavakyas each, which goes Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi or Prajnanam Brahma, which means consciousness is Brahman, God is within you, you are that. We know this in theory, yet we can't find Him, we cannot tune into Him. So who is this God we are looking for? How we will be able to find Him? The answer is in the reading again. Jesus simply says that lift up your eyes, and as Bhagavad Gita says, concentrate at the point between your eyebrows. Not only during meditation, and those of you who are attending our guided meditation, you will know that every single guided meditation, this is the line which you will hear. Close your eyes and gently uplift your gaze and bring your awareness to the point between your eyebrows. That is the seat of superconsciousness, and that is where you will perceive God. The technique is there, but how would we perceive Him? This question is not only for us. Even Paramahansa Yogananda has the same question. In Autobiography of Yogi, after Paramhansa Yogananda experiences cosmic consciousness, where his consciousness was one with everything there is, yet he had a doubt. He went to Swami Sri Yukteswar, his guru, and he asked this same question which we are talking about. I want to know, sir, when shall I find God? And Yukteswarji replies, you have found him. Oh no, sir, I don't think so. My guru was smiling. I am sure you aren't expecting a venerable personage adorning a throne in some antiseptic corner of the cosmos. I see, however, that you are imagining that the possession of miraculous powers is knowledge of God. One might have the whole universe and find the Lord still elusive. Spiritual advancement is not measured by one's outward powers, but only by the depth of his bliss in meditation. Ever new joy is God. And Swami Sri Yukteswar gives the reply, ever new joy is God. And if ever new joy is within us, if God is already within us, why aren't we able to experience that joy every moment in our life? Paramahansa Yogananda says, thrill after thrill, thousands of pleasure crushed together, and that is the joy or bliss one will experience when he is one with God. And if God is already with us, we are still not able to experience that. Why? So we have the techniques to tear the veil. The imaginary separation between us and God can be removed by all the yogic techniques which has been taught to us. And not only during meditation, even after meditation, Paramahansa Yogananda has always recommended that keep your gaze uplifted, or in other words, keep your awareness at the point between your eyebrows, even when you are doing mundane activities, when you are working, when you are serving, think of God all the time. And in another chapter, Paramahansa Yogananda says, long concentration on the liberating spiritual eye has enabled the yogi to destroy all delusions concerning matter and its gravitational weight. Henceforth, he sees the universe an essentially in undifferentiated mass of life. So, long concentration on the liberating spiritual eye is the way of God. When we have enough intense craving, and when we have deep concentration and concentrate at the point between the eyebrows and keep calling on Him constantly, He will reveal Himself to us. And Swami Kriyananda gives a very nice example. Imagine if your favorite friend is coming to dinner or lunch to your home, or assume it's Christ Himself or Paramahansa Yogananda is coming or Krishna is coming to your home. You have invited him for dinner. Would you be in the kitchen cooking and then waiting for him, like when he comes he will knock? No, he will be out in the front door, earning for his arrival, waiting in the front door. So similarly, always keep your awareness at the point between the eyebrows and wait for him. And if our craving is intense enough, he will reveal himself to us. And when will we experience that ever new joy? Paramahansa Yogananda in his poem Samadhi says, smoldering joy oft puffed by meditation. So the joy we feel during meditation initially might be very little, or it might not be ever new bliss as Yukteswarji described it. But that smoldering little joy which you experience, we have to expand into it. Swami Kriyananda says, do not meditate for joy, meditate in joy. Do not meditate to God, meditate in God. And that smoldering joy, when you puff it and blow it, just like kindling a spark of charcoal and blowing it and making it into a fire, that smoldering joy, oft puffed by the technique of meditation, will burst into immortal flames of bliss within us. And not only during meditation, we can also practice His presence every single time of the day. And I like to end by reading a couple of lines from the poem God, God, God. When boisterous storms of trials shriek, and when worries howl at me, I will drown their noises, loudly chanting, God, God, God. In waking, eating, working, dreaming, sleeping, serving, meditating, chanting, divinely loving, my soul will constantly hum, unheard by any, God, God, God. And with such craving, God will reveal Himself to us.
Thank you, Hari, for a wonderful discussion. I'll also add a few thoughts. As Hari was saying, Aham Brahmasmi is what the Upanishads declare. So then, I am God. Where is the question of when will I find God, or I have to do any seeking or looking for God? But unfortunately, it doesn't feel like that to me. Shivji, if we imagine God, Shivji has so many powers. And Vishnuji, he is resting calmly in Shir Sagar on his bed with Yog Nidra, while he is also controlling the whole world. And Brahmaji is sitting aram se in his lotus, doing his tap, while also creating the world. While if I have a small task to do in the day, I am agitated, I become restless, I become frantic almost sometimes. For me, it's difficult to create a beautiful painting or a ceramic, let alone create the worlds and galaxies. So where is this disconnect happening? What are the Upanishads talking about? There's a story that comes up also, again to help us in the scriptures. It says that Brahmaji was given the task of creation. And he said, okay, he sat down in meditation, and through his consciousness, he produces a sun. And he feels that this sun will go ahead and populate the world and make the creation happen. So when the sun comes out, because he is from Brahmaji's consciousness, what happens? He realizes who he truly is. And he says, Father, I want to meditate till I realize myself and get absorbed in Brahman. And he goes away to meditate. So Brahmaji is like, he produces then another sun, another one, but all of them have that God consciousness within themselves, and they say that they realize that joy is within them, they need to find that, and they get absorbed in spirit. Finally, Brahmaji thinks about it, and then he comes up with a plan. Along with the sun, he now produces Maya with its temptations, with the world, with the joys and pleasures of objects. And now when he has a sun, then this sun looks outwards instead of inwards. He looks outward into the world and he says, yes, I want these joys and pleasures, and I will go and populate the world. So now this story really illustrates what's happening with us. We have been caught in this Maya of temptations, of joys and pleasures, seeking them outwards. And we have forgotten that we are complete, we are fulfilled, we are a source of joy within ourselves. But we look outwards in desires and wants, and thus we have forgotten completely what we truly are. And this happens for, as Hari was saying, millions and millions, of incarnations, till finally we get tired and we start to realize the futility of this. As Paramahans Yoganandaji said, the anguishing monotony of it all. We start to realize that slowly. And if we start to realize this, what is it that we are realizing? Incarnation after incarnation. We are born, we learn to walk, we go to school, Then we are, looking for work, working hard at work, trying to achieve something, retiring. And these days, a lot of studies show that after retirement, dementia sets in. We get that, we get diseases, we die, and then we come back again and do the whole same thing again, once, twice, a million times. When we realize the futility of this, fortunately, then if we also have that positive desire to find God, then things start to look up for us. So there's another story, Ramakrishna Paramhans. He had a devotee who told him, Guruji, when will I find God? So Paramahansji takes him outside to a pond and he dunks his head inside. And this devotee is gasping for breath. And then he pulls him out. He says, what do you want? So the devotee says, I just want a breath of air. So Paramahansji says, yes, when you want God like that, you will get God. So when that desire for God consumes us completely, when there is nothing else left in us at all, any other desire, then in that instant we get enlightenment. The saints, the rishis have told us that a cave may be dark for thousands and thousands of years, but it only takes one candle. The minute that candle is lit, the darkness of thousands of years gets dispelled. So this is exactly what happens to our ignorance. So complete renunciation is needed. No other desire. And now that's really scary. Do I need to give up my BMW? Do I need to give up my house, my family, and retire into the Himalayas? No. Thankfully, the masters have given us an easier way. They say that physical renunciation is not needed. It is what we need to do is mental renunciation. And what is mental renunciation? We have all these desires, these wants, we have these control inclinations, don't we? Expectations. I want this person to be like this, and if he is not, I'm going to fight it. I want situations, life to be like this. This is my expectation based on my likes and dislikes. And this is how it all has to be, then finally I can be happy. And the masters tell us that it's the thoughts and our feelings which obscure what we truly are, that light of the soul within us, the restless, agitated thoughts and feelings. Just think about it. One thought arises, another thought also arises, and there's always a battle between these thoughts and these feelings within us. It's constant. But what are we? We are beyond these thoughts, we are beyond these emotions, but we always stay on the surface, battling between these thoughts and these feelings within us, right? So we need to go beyond these thoughts and feelings to be able to see who we truly are. And if you reflect, 90% of our thoughts and feelings, or actually all of them probably, are as a result of our trying to control, trying to have expectations in life, that this is how it should be and that is how it should be, which keeps us in the past, which keeps us in the future, and never in this eternal now where God is. In the past, in the hurts, this person did this to me, he should not have. In the future, worries and anxieties, if things don't go my way, what will happen? So what do? These expectations and this control that we want to have in life, what can we do about that? The masters tell us, practice titiksha under every circumstance. Whatever comes to you, be even-minded, be cheerful and accept it. What do we need? We need to accept, we need to surrender to it, considering it as Guru's will, God's will. This is for sure that nothing comes to us without their will. And if He is our Father and He wants to help us and He loves us, whatever He gives us, we have to know is for our good. So we have to remove this mental battle. I wanted this to happen, but this happened. So we are constantly, this battle is happening, and what does it do? There's no relaxation, there is no calmness left, we are just stuck in our mind. And if we were in the present, when we had stopped this battle, we would be relaxed, we would be calm, we would probably be able to improve the situation calmly in whatever manner we wanted the situation to take a turn. So this is what we really need to do, you know, be in the present and get away from this power of thoughts and feelings. Let them go. Let go of our control and expectations in the world. This is real renunciation. Let me end with the story of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which Swamiji told us many years back, which he had heard. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is surrounded with all his devotees, and some of them are asking him, Prabhu, when will we get enlightened? When will we find God? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told some, maybe next life, 3, 4 lives, 5 lives, 6 lives. And all of these devotees are highly disappointed and very sad that we have to wait for so long to get enlightenment, to find God. Then finally a very favorite devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, and everybody tells him, you ask. They were very sure that, you know, it will be really soon for him. So they goad him into asking Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when will I get enlightened? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells, oh, you'll take 1,000,000 lifetimes right now. And this man goes out, and the other devotees are so shocked. This man, he's so holy, and he will take 1,000,000 lifetimes. He must be devastated. And they follow him out. And what do they see? He's dancing in joy. And they say, are you mad? Our Guru is saying you will find God after 1,000,000 lifetimes. He said, I'm so happy that I will find God. So this is what really, you know, and sure enough, what happens is, very soon after that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes out, touches his heart, and he is enlightened. So what happened? What was the difference? The difference was that this devotee lived in the now. Whatever came to him, he accepted joyfully, because he did not have his own will. The will was constantly surrendered to his Guru and to God, and he lived in that joy of God consciousness always. Thank you. Jai Guru.